Well, thank you everyone for joining. I am here with my colleague Mike Rossi from the California College of the Arts in California, obviously. And my name is Sarah Titford from the Maryland Institute College of Art. And we are here to give you a presentation on portfolio preparation. This is going to be specifically geared to schools generally in the United States. So though all of the schools are different, we definitely want to point out that there are some things that are unique to the United States. And as we go, we will point out what those are, but we are very glad that you're here and we hope you enjoy. So one thing that is a really fantastic tool, and the reason why California College of the Arts and Maryland Institute present together frequently is because we are part of the Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design. This is a fantastic organization in North America that is a total of 36 leading art and design schools, and we are all federally accredited nonprofit organizations. And we educate over 50,000 undergraduate and graduate students each year. And ACAD is also a fantastic resource for those who are interested in getting feedback on portfolios. So there are members of this actually that are in the UK as well. So when you go to the ACAD site, you are able to see an entire list of the membering organizations. And if you would like to get feedback on your portfolio, you can upload 5 images of your work and you can select from an entire group of schools and they will email you with feedback. So this is a great resource for you. The site is here, acad.slideroom.com. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of that. It's also a place where you can search by major. So if you're interested in finding out, which schools offer animation, you can literally just enter that into the search on the ACAD site, and all of those accredited schools with animation majors will come up. And I will hand this over to my colleague, Mike.
Excellent. Thanks, Sarah. So again, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Mike. I'm the Assistant Director of International Enrollment here at California College of the Arts, or CCA. So just to briefly introduce my institution, as Sarah mentioned, fully accredited private nonprofit school of art and design here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We've been around for over 100 years. We were founded during the arts and crafts movement. And because of that, we've got a lot of strong fine art and craft-based programs because of all the cool stuff that's happened with design, technology, architecture. We also have really great programs in those areas. So our 6 most popular majors right now are animation, illustration, graphic design, industrial design, painting and drawing, and our 5-year Bachelor of Architecture program. But we do have over 20 undergraduate programs altogether. One thing that sets us apart from some other art and design schools in the US is our STEM designated programs. And on the undergraduate side, those include animation, interaction design, and that 5-year Bachelor of Architecture, giving students who complete those programs the opportunity to apply for a 2-year extension of their OPT. So the ability to stay in the US for a little bit longer when completing a degree. We're a pretty small institution, about 1,450 undergraduate students, but very diverse. So 42% of our student body is coming from about 50 countries around the world. And this has helped us to be ranked one of the top 10 most diverse campuses in the US. Our location affords us some really awesome opportunities. And among those are our connection to various companies.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Over 200 companies here are physically coming to our campus to work with our students. Students are participating in over 600 internships a year, and a majority of our faculty are current practicing professionals, essentially working in industries and for companies our students want to be a part of. So for example, you might have an animation teacher who works at Pixar or a graphic design teacher who works at Google. So some really great opportunities here at CCA. Turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you, Mike, and sorry about the slide switch there. Okay, so the Maryland Institute College of Art is located in Baltimore, Maryland, and Baltimore is on the East Coast of the United States, It's about 3 hours south of New York City, and Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, is about 45 minutes away. Maryland Institute College of Art, or MICA, is actually the oldest fully accredited degree-granting art and design college in the U.S. So we were founded in 1826. We have a very long, rich history in fine arts and design fields. You can see a list of our majors in the upper right-hand corner there. And MICA is consistently ranked in the top 10 art schools in the US, according to US News and World Report, specifically in the areas of graphic design and our fine arts majors, so painting, drawing, and sculpture. We also have many popular majors now in illustration, animation, product design, architecture, game design, and many others that you can see here on the screen. MICA is unique in that we have a very integrative, customizable, entrepreneurial, and purpose-driven curriculum. So integrative, meaning that a lot of students are integrating art and design with many other fields, such as healthcare, medicine, technology, even space exploration. We do have a partnership with Johns Hopkins University where students are able to create a lot of those integrative partnerships. And it's very customizable. So we do have a first year program that is similar to Foundation, but it's a little bit more exploratory. And once students complete their first year, you can select a major and then customize that with a number of minors and concentrations. So we are also very focused in career development. An average of 95% of our students are employed full-time, part-time, or entrepreneurs, or they go on to top graduate programs. That's a little bit about MICA. We also are 1/3 international with students from 52 different countries. All right, so now we are going to go into talking about portfolios. And again, for those who just joined as well, we are going to be focusing on what a portfolio is like. And this is really kind of specific to US schools. Fortunately, California College of the Arts and MICA are kind of similar in what we look for in a portfolio. But I would really just emphasize to make sure that you research each individual school to really learn what the specifications are for their portfolios. Sometimes there are requirements, specific prompts, or things to respond to. So I definitely encourage you to make sure you have an understanding of each school's requirements. So generally speaking, a portfolio is a selection of work compiled over a period of time. Typically, when you apply, we're looking for work that is no older than 2 years, just to see your highest skill set and really how you've evolved. And it really demonstrates your creativity, your personality, your abilities and commitment. And this is really can be a variety of different ways. We accept work that is in classroom, out of classroom, part of pre-college programs. The more art you're making in a variety of contexts, the better. And it is without a doubt the most important part of the application for schools in the US, for art and design schools. So what does it represent? Your portfolio should really represent absolutely your best work. So we want to see the work that you have developed over this period of time that really shows your skill set and also your creativity and your personal voice. So we really want to get to know you. We want to know what inspires you, where you come from, the things that have influenced you in your work. And it is definitely about skill, but sometimes it's not always about how well you create it, but what you are choosing to create that really tells the most about you. We want to know, what lessons that you learned from creating the work, and evolution of work is really important as well. So we definitely see a very wide variety of work. For both Mike and my school, we accept portfolios that really are not major specific. So That means if you are applying, and again, this is very unique to the US, if you are interested in studying architecture, for example, we do not necessarily require that your whole portfolio be geared towards architecture. Because we offer these first year programs, we really like to see the skills that you have developed over that time. And if you have work that is related to a major, that's wonderful. But you can absolutely work in a variety of media. We love to see work in series, to see sort of a progression of work. You can have a whole portfolio that is really focused towards one type of media. We love to see experimentation as well. So you may have sort of a thread that is tying your work together over a whole variety of different types of media. That's another way to put together a portfolio. And concept obviously is a very good way to drive your portfolio. And this can be exploring your cultural identity. It can be exploring, narratives. It can be really specifically about a philosophy that you have studied. And also, there are lots of portfolios that are really driven by observation and content. So when you hear a school say that they want to see observational work, it's important to remember that that can be observational, and it can also be personal at the same time. So we'll go a little bit more into that. But observation really means that you are directly observing your environment, your space around you, and your time and environment. So it's a variety of things. And then lastly, a breadth. So you can certainly show us that you have a mastery of skills across a whole variety of media as well. So how many pieces or projects? This also really depends on the school, but for the most part in the US, we are looking for between 10 and 20 finished artworks. So this is a little bit unique, different from the UK and the US in that we are not focusing as much on process as we are on finished works. You can certainly show us process pieces, but you want to make sure that you have at least 10 or 12 or even 15 finished artworks that we can see. So, we definitely want to see, as it says here, a hefty dose of your wow pieces. So really show us the work that culminates all of your experience over that period of time. And you want to focus on quality over quantity. So don't feel obligated to fill up all 20 slides, including pieces that are not as strong. We just really want to see the strongest work. So I will hand this over to Mike.
Excellent. Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, if you are still sort of at a loss as far as where you should begin, in many instances, you can never go wrong with some technical work. So that ability to draw, translate weight and shape, dimension on a 2D surface can be integral to a variety of different programs, everything from animation to illustration, architecture, painting and drawing, even things like graphic design and industrial design. So that's not a bad place to start if you are at a loss. And you can see some examples of that here on the screen. So everything from more traditional still life with those blue drawers on the bottom, to a more architectural type of drawing on the top corner, to a piece on the left that's a little bit more fantastical in nature, but still playing around with those same concepts of depth, dimension, weight, shape. Some schools will really like technical work. Others will lean a little bit more towards conceptual, but drawing is always a good place to start. Next slide. Now, keep in mind, your portfolio is the absolute best way for us to get to know a little bit more about who you are. Aside from your essay or your artist statement, this is where you can really sort of come out and show us things that you like, things that you don't like, things that are important to your background or your history, things about your culture that you think are important that you want to share. So bringing your personal voice into your pieces is really, really important. And it's something that makes you stand out from other applicants that we are reviewing. Next slide. As I just mentioned a couple slides ago, don't be afraid to be conceptual. So sometimes our ideas are deeper than they first seem. And sometimes our ideas are even better than what our finished product turns out to be, right? We're not always hitting it out of the park. And it's okay to share some of that too, or to share what some of those deeper concepts are within your work. So just for example, the piece in the bottom center there is a feel box that was created by a student. So not only is it sculptural in nature, but it's also interactive. So the idea here is that participants would stick their hand into the box, feel around at the objects on the bottom of the box, and when they took their hand out of the box, they would draw what it was they thought they felt. And then they were encouraged to speak to one another as well as the artist himself to really talk about how their experiences or how their background sort of influenced what it was they were feeling in the box. So, definitely be encouraged to push boundaries and experiment, play around with different things. Next slide. Documenting your process could also be a really good idea. Again, some schools don't mind seeing some process work, sketchbook work, things like that. Others prefer more completed finished works. So it is very important, again, to make sure you understand what those requirements are. But keeping track of your process or how you got from point A to point B, sketches and thumbnails to a finished project, sketchbook pages, anything like that could be really important to make sure you're keeping track of in case that's something you choose to include in your submission. Next slide. I think that's back to you.
All right. Once you have come together and you have a collection of artworks that you are considering to put into your portfolio, it is really super important to document your work the best way you can. And get used to documenting your work as you go. So, for the schools that like to see process, obviously you want to document the process, but also, sometimes it can be really helpful just to document work to see the progress of it. And that is very important. So just on a technical level, you want to make sure you're taking excellent photographs, make sure the light is even, the color is really true to the piece. You want to make sure that the image is lined up with the frame of the camera that you are using. Sometimes if you do not have access to a digital camera, you can use a smartphone as long as it has high resolution images that it takes. And you want to make sure as you are selecting the works that are going to go into the final portfolio that you omit anything that does not really show off your best work. So as I mentioned before, if there is work that, hey, I made this three-dimensional piece and I think I should put it in because I want to show them that I can work sculpturally. If it's not the strongest piece, it is not going to really serve the purpose of your work. Now, if there's a school that requires that you show this variety, that is one scenario. But for the most part, especially with US schools, we want to see that you are just showing us your strongest work. So really focus on that quality over quantity. And then also really, as you're documenting, get comfortable with talking about your work and writing about your work, because that will come in very handy in the description area that you'll use. So be mindful of the presentation. So if you are working in multiple dimensions, make sure that you're showing us all sides of a piece. And you can show it in sort of a simple context, or in the example here, if you're making like a wearable piece, you can show the piece off of a human, on a human, have that human in a space that really sort of helps the image or the piece to sort of be visible. And in this case, there's like a color relationship between the environment and the shoes that you can see there. And then, make sure that you are not overcrowding the slide. I'll show you an example of that in a moment, but definitely take enough photographs that we get an idea of the actual volume of the piece. We do also accept video and GIF files, so you can oftentimes take a video. If you have a sketchbook that really has developed work in it, you can even take a video of that work to show the different pages without taking up too many slides. So the platform that we typically use is called SlideRoom. Sometimes there are schools that don't use it, but it will be something similar. So this is very, very important. SlideRoom is your presentation. So let me just repeat that. Slide Room is where you will upload your raw image files, and then there's a separate section where you can enter in the information, the title, the year, the medium, the size, and a description. The reason I say this is because many students will put their work into a PDF or into something that is already formatted, upload it to Slide Room, and the image kind of gets lost. And I'll show you what that looks like. But that's really important to remember. Just the image, no text, no borders, no backgrounds, just a really clean image of the work is what you want to do. So this is what happens when you put your work into a ready-made format like a PDF. This is kind of an extreme circumstance, but the student on the bottom wanted to show all of their photography and all of their painting in one slide, and all of the images get lost. It gets really tiny on the screen. We're really not able to see the details, and it's just kind of a poor presentation. You know, it's just overwhelming for us to view. And in the top, it looks like this is part of one piece, or it could be a performance or a fashion piece. But again, having all of this sort of background space and the images overlapping each other really detracts from the image itself, and it's not very clear. So this is what you want to avoid.
So definitely, don't be afraid to experiment. So if you're always using pencil and paper, you know, maybe play around with paint or play around with three-dimensional materials. So the things that you're seeing here are everything from some digital manipulation to mixed media works to even painting on unexpected surfaces. And in the case here, you know, the student is actually painting on concrete and rocks that are from the hometown that they grew up in. So these portraits and these hand studies, bringing that personal element like we talked about earlier into the works is something that you can do even when you're experimenting and playing around with different media. Next slide. And at the end of the day, don't be afraid to have fun. You know, art should be enjoyable. Art should be fun. This is why you want to study art and design. And sometimes it's the little things that you're making for friends, you know, a fun gift, pink French fries, or, you know, a monster running through the city or something like that. Those fun pieces that really tell us a little bit about, again, your personality, a little bit about you. And those things can certainly be good pieces to put in a portfolio as well. So, you know, definitely consider that. And as Sarah mentioned earlier in the presentation, you know, getting a portfolio review if you're unsure about those fun pieces can certainly help too. And the next slide, the last thing that we want to talk about, so we give you some time for questions, are some things to avoid. And these are all examples of that. So you definitely want to try to stay away from like manga and anime inspired images, things that are very overly stylized. They're generally not showing us your voice or your style. So you usually want to stay away from that. Similarly, you want to be mindful of the materials you're working on. So yes, we want you to be creative. Yes, we want you to play around. But drawings on notebook paper tend to detract a little bit. So you see that car image on the bottom with, you know, the typical horizontal blue lines in somebody's notebook. That's, again, not necessarily doing you any favors. Invest in a sketchbook or some drawing paper, or use printer paper even, so you don't have that same kind of distracting element in the background of your work. Things like fan art, existing characters, portraits of celebrities. Again, we don't want you using other people's likenesses or other people's ideas. We want to see what you can do, right? What you have created. So definitely, you know, when we see a portrait of Taylor Swift, we know she's probably not your neighbor. So, you know, if you enjoyed the lighting or the setup or her expression, have somebody, you know, your mom, your cousin, your neighbor, pose in the same way, light it the same way, and then, you know, create your own portrait rather than copying things you're finding on the internet. Be careful of screenshots with digital art. So the example that we use of that is in the upper right-hand corner. The student sent a screenshot of a post on their Instagram. We don't need to see how many likes you got or how many comments or how much battery you have left on your phone. We really just want to see your images, right? So this is, we want you to have fun, but this is serious. This is your portfolio. This is your work. So make sure you have the integrity of that work displayed in your submission. And then similarly, that improper documentation. So just to kind of tie back with what Sarah was saying, when you're being mindful of that presentation on the slide, the pieces in the bottom right-hand corner, the student wanted us to see those paintings, but they're photographed off-centered at an angle on a coffee table with some glasses behind the edge of the table, the floor. All of this is detracting from what it is the student wants us to see. So you definitely want to be, again, mindful of that presentation to give your work the opportunity to be shown in the best possible light. And yeah, we also have pre-college programs. So especially if you are, in 10th through 12th grade or 15th through 19, we each have slightly different criteria when it comes to that. We do have opportunities for you to take courses during the summer, which can help you prepare a portfolio or help you get a feel for our specific institutions. We're both offering online options this year, and more information about that can be found on our websites.
Definitely. Thank you, Mike. So here is our contact information, and we do have just a few minutes left here for any questions. You're more than welcome to put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask that way, but we are happy to take your questions. And while we're waiting for questions, I did really want to emphasize that Mike and I both, and any admissions counselor in the US are very, very willing to do portfolio reviews with you. So, and a portfolio review does not have to be a big, scary, intimidating thing. It's really just a chance for us to look at the work that you've made, even if it's in process or unfinished. So I highly recommend that you reach out to us either through email or the ACAD site, even National Portfolio Days, which is another resource that you can use. So do we have any questions?
I have a question, please.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm doing IB. I'm in 11th grade. So like when submitting my portfolio for Universal IB, am I allowed to use things such as my comparative study or process portfolio? Is that allowed?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The work that goes into your portfolio can be really from anywhere. It can be from your IB curriculum. If you're in A levels, you can use A level work. If you are in an AP curriculum, you can use work that's coming from there. I would just say that what you want to avoid is just taking your IB portfolio and plopping that into every application that you are applying to, because every school is going to be a little bit different, but the work that you're making in IB absolutely can go in there.
So whatever is relevant.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So I can just use whatever is relevant, but I am allowed to use it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just be careful with IB. I know you mentioned the process boards or images. In the US, for the most part, we want to see finished work. So if there is a piece that really requires that you show us some of the process that you've built, that's fine. But really, you want to focus on the finished work as opposed to the idea boards and the mood boards and the process slides, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We have another question.
Yeah, so in regards to pre-college, unfortunately this year at CCA, industrial design is not one of the offerings. For international students, there are 4 online offerings: animation, fashion design, game art, and comics. In a normal year, we would have industrial design, but unfortunately that's not possible for this summer. Sarah, I don't know if you have that offering.
We do have courses in product design, yes, and which is very much the same as industrial design. It's just sort of called different things, but yes, we do have course offerings for product design. And everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. I know that there's a presentation literally starting right now, so I'm going to have to close this one. We hope you join in the next presentation about creative careers. So we are so glad you attended. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.